Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to be talking about the Chuwi Hi12 dual boot version that I recently received. If you haven't already seen my unboxing video, I've left a link in the description and I definitely recommend you check it out. But today I'm going to be talking about what I believe are the good points and the bad points about this tablet. So I've got an entire list of things to go through, but rather than go through everything just an all in one go, I've broken each part of the review down to sections, and if you check out the description you'll see that there's markers that will take you to each part of the video. So if you are someone who's looking to find out more about this tablet, or you're interested yourself in buying this tablet, then you can skip to the bit that's most relevant to you. So rather than me just waffle on, choose a section and go ahead, but otherwise let's get into this. So to begin with, I thought I'd talk about a general overview of the tablet. Now, I've attached the keyboard just so you can see how it comes as a complete unit, and later on I will show you how that does come off. But when you get the tablet, essentially this is how it comes. It comes in either a silver or a gold. Now, this backing, I believe, is plastic. But it is quite sturdy plastic. It does actually feel like metal, and I think that's because of the battery and the screen. They're quite heavy. But yeah, it's overall the build quality feels quite good. As far as connectivity is concerned, what you get are a micro SD, you get a full-sized USB 3.0, you get a micro USB, which also acts as an OTG cable, so it means you can plug in an OTG hub, or you can plug in if you needed to for some reason another monitor plug, but it all plugs straight into there. But that's also the charge port. You also have a USB 2.0 full-sized. That's where your microphone is, and you have your HDMI next to it, which plugs directly into a monitor. And as you should be able to see now, it works really well. It copies everything over really well. There's no lag, there's no delay. It works really well. I was quite surprised by that, just using a micro HDMI adapter. And then here you have your headphone jack. Now, if you do have your if you have your keyboard, you have extra USBs. So you have two, so one there and one there. USB 2.0 ports, which also work fine, but you get the slower speeds. And then as you can see on both sides, that's where the speakers are. And then on the top you have your volume down, volume up and power key. And slightly protruding edge, you can see your 5 megapixel camera. So I don't know whether I can get that in shot very well. Let me see if I can just zoom into that. So that's a 5 megapixel autofocus camera, which is the first time Chuwi have included one of those in their tablets, which makes it really useful compared to their last one, which was only a 2 megapixel camera. This is actually a HD camera. Which you'll get to see later on. Now, the one thing I do like about this is also the little bit of connectivity when you open it up. So there must be a magnet somewhere. Look, if I can get this slidey table. So the screen goes off as soon as it touches and then turns back on when you open it. So there must be a magnet somewhere in the keyboard which allows it to do that. But if I do just quickly take this off, you can also see at the bottom of this tablet where the connections are. So that connects to the keyboard, and that's the docking system. So overall, quite good connectivity. So one thing I do want to talk about is the screen. Now, first thing I want to say is that all these scratches and marks that you can see around the edges, they're not actually on the screen, they're from the screen protector. Mine came full of scratches, and the amount of times I've been wiping it with a cloth has meant that it's got even more scratches on it. So once I do get some screen protectors, I will be replacing this. I'm not going to go too much into about the screen, but I will have to say that it is phenomenal. I loved the Chuwi Hi8, I love the Chuwi Hi10 screen. The Chuwi Hi12 is even better. It blows the rest of them out the water. I also like the way that the screen aspect ratio is. It's a 4:3 screen, which means you get a lot more height rather than width, rather than a 16:9. Some people prefer the 16:9 to have the wider look. Me personally, I prefer the height. It's far more useful when using programs, things like Photoshop, which I have used on here, which works really well. And things even like Word. It just means that I can see more of what I'm writing rather than the edges, which aren't really being used for anything. So overall, I've been really impressed by this screen. It's something that I believe that is just a selling point just by itself. So if you are looking for something with a really, really good screen on it, then I have to recommend this tablet. It blows everything out the water. So you turn on the device by just holding the power button on the top part. That then takes you onto a menu screen where it gives you the option of either Windows 10 or Android, and you can use the volume up or volume down keys to choose which version of Windows that you want. Mine defaults to Windows automatically. You can't touch the screen, which I made the mistake of in my review video, my unboxing video. You have to use those keys. I'm guessing the driver for the device doesn't work in that menu screen. But overall, booting is really quick. Boots directly up into my profile. Now, one thing that I did do when I got the tablet, I deleted the original Chuwi profile and created my own. It's just something that I do. It's just habit, just to make sure that all the settings have been wiped. But just to show you how the tablet comes. Now, I have installed a couple of apps on here, but nothing major. I've set it up so that anything from the store automatically goes to the micro SD card I've got installed. But with both Windows and Android installed, essentially I've got 25 gig free on the Windows partition, which isn't too bad. And just to show you a little bit about the specs. So as you can see on here, I'm running a fully activated version of Windows. This is the Chuwi Hi12 64-bit operating system running the Intel Atom X5 Z8300 CPUs, which says it gives 1.44 gigahertz, but it does work up to 1.84 gigahertz. This is a quad-core processor. So let's look at the webcams. Now, I can't say that these webcams are the best in the world, but they are an improvement off the last models. Well, the front camera is anyway. So, access my location, yep. So, if I turn this around the other way, that's the front-facing camera. So if I pick this up, how do I get you in? I'm getting the camera in shot, I'm not getting that in shot. So the camera, it's all right. It's 2 megapixel. It's not really something I would say that I would go around Skyping with. But if you needed a camera that badly, then yeah, I suppose it's all right. It's partially useful. And if I flip around the other way, and this is the main camera. So this is the front-facing camera. So I have my calipers here. Put them in shot. It does autofocus, which is quite cool. So it will focus on where you tell it to focus. So it's alright. It's a 5 megapixel front camera. So I would have preferred it if it was the other way around, so that the 5 megapixel camera was actually the selfie camera, because for what I feel I'm going to use this for, I feel it would be far more suitable to use that camera than I would to use this one the other way around. And I'll leave some shots on there so you can actually see what they look like, but they're not really anything impressive. But if you really feel the need to use this as a Skype device, then I would recommend getting a external camera that plugs in via USB. You do also have some default apps installed, but unlike most tablets that you buy or most mainstream manufacturers, this doesn't come with any bloatware. It just comes with what Windows 10 comes with. Now, you do have some stuff on here, like you have like a Candy Crush Saga installed, and you do have a couple of other apps installed, but apart from that, it pretty much comes how it should do. The only thing that I had to do was I had to change the the store settings because it set me as being in America and my time zone as being in Beijing or China or somewhere like that. So I had to change everything to the UK, which is very simple. You just click on settings, and once that opens up, you just then go to time and language, and then that speech, region, date, and set it all to your country. But as far as apps is concerned, one of the useful things that comes on the tablet version is a version of Microsoft Word, basically Office, Excel, OneNote, PowerPoint. It's a stripped down version, but still really useful. So all you need to do is sign in with your Microsoft account, your Office 365, your MSN, whatever you've got it as. And it means that then you can create documents on the fly, and it's really useful. It is stripped back, so you don't get the full features of Office 365, and it does try to prompt you to install a free month worth of Office 365. Even if you do that, you can still revert back to this one. So I installed Office 2010 just to test it. I decided I didn't like it on this tablet, so I removed it, and then this tablet version of Office then reappeared. So it's really useful to have on there. It also does come with a few other things installed, but nothing major. Anything that you do need, so it comes with things like Skype, that comes installed, a copy of Office. It did detect my printer, so I can install my printer straight away on here. And anything you do need, you just go into the store and obviously go ahead and download it, which I've done with a couple of games, which I'll show you later. One thing that I have been impressed by this tablet is the ability to handle heavier web pages than previous tablets I've used. So for example, it's much more responsive with the new Atom processor and maybe the extra RAM than what I've seen in previous Chuwi tablets. So when you're loading a heavier web page, it loads a lot quicker, it's a lot smoother, and you're less time waiting. So as you can see now, I'm waiting for it to catch up, but it's quite smooth once the page loads, and it works quite well. So it's something that I have been quite impressed by. Now, one thing that I have noticed on the previous tablets that I'd used was that the antenna or the chip, or however the Wi-Fi works, meant that I was only ever getting probably around a 20 meg download. So what I want to do is I want to test that out now. So I've got speed test loaded, and as you can see, it's full to the brim of adverts. Normally I use Chrome where I can get rid of these adverts, but I wanted to show you in Edge without Chrome being installed, just so you can see exactly what you get when you take it out the box. So I've got a 70 meg connection, which is consistently at 70 meg down and 20 meg up. So let's see how the tablet performs, and I'm quite close to my router too. As you can see, it doesn't enjoy flash. So with this card, I can see that I'm getting a double the speed I was getting before. So over the network, it works really well. That's quite impressive, actually. It works far better than my Hi8 and my Hi10. Yeah, not doing bad. So I'm getting close to the maximum speed. Now, the only thing that is annoying about using this tablet as far as internet is concerned is flash. It really doesn't like flash. Now, I know flash is becoming a redundant bit of technology, but it's still on quite a lot of websites at the moment, and this just does not like rendering it very well. But overall, yeah, quite impressed with that. Decent speeds and decent internet usage. One thing that I've been very surprised about is actually the quality of the video that this is able to play. The audio is okay. It's a little bit tinny, but that's probably because the quality of speakers in there. It does give quite a good sound in the sense of the loudness, but as far as its sort of dynamic qualities, its bass, its high tones, its mid-range, it's just okay. I don't think it would replace your phone, for example, for your music, but it's still something that's better than most other Chinese tablets that I've seen. You won't be able to hear it very well on this because I'm actually wearing a lavalier mic, so you won't get the best sound out of what these speakers can offer. But one thing I was very impressed by is its ability to be able to deal with raw 4K video, as this is here. Sorry, my camera keeps on going out of focus with all of that. But essentially, as you can see, that is playing 4K straight from the camcorder, which actually I'm using for this video, which is the Panasonic 4K video camera. So this is fully capable of playing 4K. Didn't have any problems whatsoever. I even tried a couple of films, which I can't show on here, obviously for copyright purposes, but it played them absolutely fine. So that's really impressive. As long as you've got enough memory to store all of the videos on, this is a really great little 4K device. My 2011 MacBook Pro can't even play 4K. So it's quite nice that you've got that ability, especially with all the processing power going on such a big, high quality screen. So one of the things I've been contacted about via social media is the headphone jack having a problem where static comes through. Now, mine isn't as bad as what other people's have been, but I still get the same static through. My Chuwi Hi12 was a lot worse than this, but what I've done is I've removed my mic and I'm going to place it on the top of the speaker, so you should be able to hear the static coming through. And you should also be able to hear a pop every time I stop doing something on the tablet. So every time it does something with noise and then it stops. You get a pop noise like that. And I think that's just the sound cutting off. But it does it every single time you're using a set of headphones or an external speaker. Doesn't affect it if you're using it over Bluetooth because it's different technology, obviously, where the sound's going out. But obviously that's to do with isolation on the headphone jack. It's obviously not there. But I get it way less than what other people have. Now, one thing I just did want to show is the gaming capability of this tablet. It has a superb screen, so for gaming it makes it really vivid, really good colours, but I must admit the processing power isn't exactly there for what I would say intense gaming. So I've downloaded one of the racing games off the App Store, so we're just going to go ahead and see what it's like to actually run through a race. Let's get rid of these adverts. Let's turn up the volume a little bit. Now I have two choices. I can control it either via my input or I can use the accelerometer. So I'll just see how it goes. Now, as you can see, it's already lagging a little bit. Ooh. It's not exactly what I would call playable. Let's see if we can bring the graphics down a little bit. Okay, now we're playing the game again, just with the graphics brought down a little bit, the resolution. Yeah, so as you can see, it's a lot cleaner now. I would say it's not the easiest to control when you've got the accelerometer this way. But as you can see, now that I have turned down the graphics, it actually plays a lot nicer. So it is a completely usable device. I've also installed on here Grand Theft Auto, so let's see how that works. So it loads quite well. So it loads okay, but once again we're skipping frames. It's not the best in the world, but it's still playable. Now imagine if I did the same, if I messed about with the graphics, brought the render down a little bit, it would probably be absolutely fine to play. But there you have it. So just a very brief overview. I must admit it's not going to be an intense overview. There's plenty of reviews out there to show how good the gaming capability is. But as far as general stuff from the App Store, or from the Microsoft Store, it should be fine for your needs. But if you are someone who is a heavy gamer, then I would not recommend using this unless you already have a gaming machine that you just intend on streaming through this tablet. So it's really easy to make the switch over to Android. I will go through the process now. It's not exactly the quickest in the world, but you double tap the app. It then asks you if you're going to want to switch now. Click OK. And then it asks you, are you sure you want to switch to Android? And click yes. So there you go. Not the quickest switch, but it does boot up Android fairly decently. I think it spends more time in the sort of boot screen, obviously figuring out how that process works. But then when Android loads, it is decently fast. It comes basically with nothing on, with the exception of a few pre-installed apps which I don't know enough about Android to see if I can get them removed. I must admit, as far as reviewing the Android side, I'm not going to be that good at this because Android is not something that I ever use. I know people who have Android phones, but it's not something I'd ever need to consider. But as far as usability is concerned, it is quite nice. It's not the same as if you're using a phone. You can plug in the keyboard and you have a full keyboard and mouse. But as far as using the device is concerned, it's reasonably quick. The one thing that was awkward was it came pre-installed in Chinese, so that made it quite awkward to try and use, and your default homepage is the Chuwi website, but in Chinese. So you would have to go in and obviously change those little bits, and I don't know how deep embedded the language is. But I had to go on Google and Google how to change the language because obviously I couldn't read anything that was in front of me. And actually it was quite difficult to actually figure out because there are so many different versions of Android that all look completely different. But that's as easy as it is to switch. I can say that this is really responsive. Everything I've used on Android has been really good, really quick. I've not had to wait. Not like I have to do sometimes in Windows. But overall, I don't think you can argue with it. Now, the one thing that I have noticed is that the Android partition doesn't accept my 128 gigabyte cards. It only accepts up to 64 gig. So when I've had all my films and stuff installed, it's not seen everything. It's not accepted that it's all there. So it's something to watch out for. So even though this can accept the larger cards, the Android partition can't. And I don't know about the input and the touch and how that will work on there. So that's something that I'll just have to wait and see how it works. Switching back to Windows is just as easy though. So all I do is go to turn off the tablet. And then it asks me what I want to do. Power off, boot to Windows, airplane mode, lock now. And boot to Windows. And then that's it. It'll then go back through, boot up Windows, and simple as that. So the Chuwi Hi12 comes with an attachable keyboard. This keyboard is actually pretty neat. It sits quite nicely to the tablet. It makes it basically into a full-blown laptop. So as you can see, it attaches by this panel on the back, and essentially what it does is it adds more connectivity to the device without adding that much more weight, and also not making it too thick. So it's a little bit thicker than what you'd imagine a netbook to be. So if I get out my calipers, so on its thinnest point, get that off there. On its thinnest point, it is 17.4 mil, and at its thickest point, it's 21.1 mil. So it isn't exactly the thickest tablet laptop combination I've ever seen. It is quite nice. It sits quite nice. It's quite sturdy in the sense of the bracket that holds it on. The only thing that does disappoint me is when you do open this up, is there is a bit of play. So if I keep that steady as I can, it's just a little bit there. And it is a little bit of a knack to take it off. So if I try to just pull this now, it wouldn't come off because it's magnetized. So I tend to have to put my hand there, put it forward and pull it off. And then it comes off like that. And one neat little bit is it does ask you if you want to switch to the tablet mode when you take it off, which I thought was quite cool. And then it simply just docks in like that. It is really good. I do find it really useful. The only thing that I find annoying, and this isn't something that's Chuwi's fault, this is a Microsoft issue, is the trackpad. Now, it does support gestures. So if I go on the internet, it does support gestures. So it means that I can swipe. So if I swipe from the right, it means that the action center comes up. The problem is that if I end up getting it just wrong, so when I'm using it, so if I'm scrolling about and trying to go to web pages and I accidentally flick down from near the top, it means that it closes the window. I think if I flick down from another angle, yeah, there we go. It sends me into my sort of desktop mode. So it's really annoying, and there's no way to turn it off because it doesn't have anything in the system properties, the mouse properties, to turn it off like some of the more premium brands do. So it's something that Microsoft really need to fix, because it happens on both my Chuwi Hi12 and my Chuwi Hi10, and apparently it's very common across all of these sort of cheap trackpads. So that works exactly the same, and that even has a smaller trackpad than the Hi12. But overall, I gotta say it works pretty well. The keyboard's good. If you haven't seen my unboxing video of the keyboard, that will be online shortly, and I'll leave a link in the description. The only other part that I do find is that it's a little bit spongy. So you should be able to see on there. It's a little bit spongy when you're using it. So when you're using the click pad, sometimes you can find that it's pushing down a little bit. So I don't know how that's gonna survive long term, but as far as the keys are concerned, it's all right, and it types quite nicely. For the sake of however much it is, I think it's just over 20 quid. You can't really argue and turn in your tablet into a fully fledged laptop. So overall, I got to say I'm really impressed with this tablet. There's not really much that I can say that's wrong with it. Yeah, of course, I'd like it to have a higher megapixel front camera. I'd like it so that static isn't coming through the headphone jack, and I probably would like more space and maybe the keyboard dock to be a little bit better, well built. But overall, you can't argue with what you're getting for the price. For a price, of £180, let's say £200 with the keyboard, you're getting, something with an IPS screen, a Retina display. You'd be paying twice that for a used Surface Pro 3. Fair enough, it might have a slightly faster processor in there, but it all depends on what you plan on using it for. If you're just a general day-to-dayer, then you're going to not notice any issues with having this tablet. If you're looking for performance, Photoshop, After Effects, Adobe Premiere Pro, Maya, if you're looking to use hardcore bits of software, then yes, this will struggle. But as a day-to-day tablet, then you can't really argue with this. Now, if you are someone that doesn't have that sort of money, maybe this is slightly out of your budget, then I would definitely recommend going for the Hi10, which is essentially the same tablet, but without the Surface Pro screen in it. It comes with a 10-inch screen instead, but it has all the same innards, so same connectivity, same processor, same RAM, same eMMC card. Everything's exactly the same, which I will shortly be doing a review of as well. But all I can say is, yeah, I'm really impressed with this tablet. If you do want to get one, I'm going to leave a link in the description to AliExpress. That's where you get it directly from Chuwi themselves. And I'm also going to leave a link for Banggood.com, because I found that they've been brilliant in the past when I've been coming to buy my other tablets. So if you like this video, then please leave a like in the description. It really helps me out. If you do have any comments, anything you want me to answer, anything you want me to go through, leave a message. Leave a message down there for you in the description of this video at the bottom. I will gladly answer anything I can. A few people have already contacted me on social media regarding this tablet, so feel free to catch me on Facebook or on Twitter, and I'll gladly answer any questions you have. Thank you.